I, Quincy and Margaret Troupe, Margaret Porter Troupe, I wanted to thank you for being our first guest for our series of podcasts to celebrate Black Fire this time. And we're just thrilled that you both are taking part. And I wanted to start it off because a lot of people may not realize, they've seen your work. They've seen the Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, and you wrote the screenplay, or they've read your books, but a lot of times we don't put a face. And so this is wonderful because it puts a face to your incredible work, and particularly your work with Miles Davis on his autobiography. And Margaret, the work that you did with your salon is just incredible, the guests that you had and the work that you do in support of youth in Mississippi. So what I wanted to first ask you is just tell me about your work and what it means to you, whether it's working with the kids, whether it's the writings. What can you tell us about the things that you do that are so important, that you really work and do it with your heart? Would you like to start, Quincy?
Well, I think Margaret should start because you're talking about kids and all that. And then I'll come
that
back.
is so beautiful. What a wonderful husband you have who understands the importance of the female. Thank you. So yes, please start, Margaret.
Well, thank you very much, Kim, for inviting me and for inviting us to be on your program, and for inviting us also to be to contribute to your beautiful, beautiful anthology. It's really stunningly beautiful, and I'm sure it's going to be a great success. And it's an honor to be included, and it's an honor to be in this place and time and space and time. And Quincy and I have been together some 4 decades plus, and we've always worked together. He, is much well established and celebrated and all of that, but always we have worked, he supported my development as a creative person, and he's a teacher by nature, and he has always encouraged creativity, and I think that's one of the glues that help us stick together, because we share so many things together. And so throughout my development and career, I've done a lot. I've tried always to give back to help other people understand what I have gotten out of the arts, how it's made my life improve, and what a wonderful journey it is to be involved with people who are creative. And kids are naturally creative, humans are naturally creative, but sometimes we don't celebrate that creativity in tangible ways and in active ways, and we don't activate that creativity among kids. So a lot of what the work that I do is involved in supporting what creative people do. And that means my own husband, the work that he does, and other artists and all of that. And so, I believe in community. I grew up in Mississippi in the South, came from a huge family, and came from educators and preachers and community leaders, and grew up with a sense of responsibility that, it's my job to give back to the community, to help improve, be a good citizen, and all those things.
Can you tell us what it's like to work with the kids? Because I've heard you talk about the work you're doing, and in fact, this year you're going to have
yes,
people.
Well, yes, we have been for 9 years. This is the 9th year. I've been bringing artists to the little place where I grew up, Gloucester, Mississippi, and we've been hosting art camps for kids, multidisciplinary art camps, 5 days a week. For 3 weeks was the minimum that we used to do, and we've been giving them basic information about how to write poetry and play music and perform, and they learn also character development principles about responsibility and respect and collaboration, cooperation, those kinds of things, to think about those. We try to give them a platform where they can express themselves, to tell us what they think, how they think about things and what things are important to them. We try to let them know that they are important. So we have a lot of arts activities for them to engage in. And we were also giving them free lunches, and we bring celebrated artists who are distinguished in their careers, who have national, international reputations, down to meet them so they can see these are people who come from communities like theirs, who look like them, who grew up like them, but who have taken their disciplines and their passion for what they do seriously and have dedicated themselves to it to such an extent that now they're big named people and that sort of thing. Sort of to, normalize that in a way for them. And to encourage and to inspire them to also achieve at the best of their abilities, whatever path they choose, but to also understand that in choosing a path, the most important asset that they have is their own imagination, their own creativity, themselves. They have themselves and their belief in themselves, right? And a commitment to that, and a commitment to being the most of themselves that they can be in whatever way, in a responsible way. That's sort of the basis for the program.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is truly about community, and you're making a difference. You
Yeah.
told me that this year there are going to be speakers on Afrofuturism. And I think
Yes.
Black speculative fiction. I think that is so important. And that really shows that not only are you giving to these young people, but they're learning about new things. They're learning about uh, Black culture and Black ideas that are expanding
Exactly.
from the Black Panther to just a whole world of
Yes, we try to
Afrofuturism.
introduce them to all kinds of
Yes,
ways of thinking and looking at things, because we try to supplement the kind of education that they're used to getting, In this way, we show them, first of all, what their cultural heritage is and what the
yes.
impact is, who are some of the people, and especially focusing on the people from the region, people like Richard Wright and, Lorraine Hansberry's father was born in Gloucester, Mississippi. I mean, the region is rich in cultural legacy, history, and art making, right? They should know that and be proud of that, and just have a better sense of pride about who they are, where they come from, and
Beautiful.
all of that,
If people want to learn more about the Gloucester camp, where can they go to? Is there anything online, or is there
Yes, we have
oh,
a
go ahead.
website. It's called the gloucesterproject.org. And Gloucester is spelled Gloster. I can put it in the chat, the website, but it's Gloucester, Gloster project, project.org. And they can see a beautiful little video there that gives a sense of what kind of things we do with the kids. And also,
Wonderful.
please donate, because we have to raise the money to pay for everybody. Okay, thanks.
Yes, donate. Important to something that is truly making a difference.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to know about why you chose the poem that's in Blackfire this time. What was it about your poem that was you felt strongly about putting inside the book?
You're talking to me again, Kim?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, this poem is a poem to my siblings. And as I said, I grew up in a very large family. I'm number 14 in a family of 15 kids. And my mom was widowed at a very young age and kind of raised us, especially the younger ones of us, alone. So she had children from the time she was 16 until she was 40. And she had all these kids by natural birth. And they were stair-stepped in age, 1.5 years, every 1.5 years for 11 years she gave birth. Can you imagine? Anyway, so now we're dying. We're dying like we were born every 1.5 years or 1 year or whatever. And I have had so many deaths in my family, and I have yet to deal with the grief of it. So this poem is about my grief, which is so deep. I find it very difficult to talk about, so that's why I wrote it.
But what I think is important about this is in the United States and the world right now, we are living in a time of real change.
Yeah.
And with COVID, with natural disasters,
Yeah.
we've all experienced, most people, particularly around our age, have experienced grief.
Yes.
And so what is wonderful about your poem is that it allows people to read and connect with that part of themselves that's trying to heal.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important. And I'm just really grateful that it's in the anthology.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for
something of that
asking.
depth is just, it's an honor. It's
Thank
a
you
real
so
honor to
much.
have it.
Thank you.
Did you want to read a couple lines, or because it's so intense, would you prefer
Okay,
not to?
I will read it, and if I get through it, I would like that to be the end of my conversation for a minute.
Oh, of course. That's what I thought. But yes,
Okay.
you're adorable.
Okay. It's titled Mourning the Dead for My Siblings. When Betty died, it was the first time I'd spoken to a person who was leaving this earth. Her voice was garbled. She could barely articulate her words, but she understood perfectly what I was saying when I said, "I love you." I didn't really know what to say to her as she lay dying. When Harry died, it was the first time I'd held. I can't.
That's all
No, I
right.
can't go through it.
What you gave us was so impactful. I'm just honored that you gave us a few lines of it. And I understand, anyone who is experiencing grief can relate to that poem. It brought back the time that my father passed in 2014. And it's healing to read because you don't think you're alone. And that is one of the things that's important. You're not alone. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you for that gift.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Quincy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I was enjoying listening to Margaret talk about her poem and her family, which I knew about, but I was just enjoying listening to her because it was so deep, and she had to stop because she's very emotional like that. She had to stop. She couldn't go any further.
Well, one of the things I think when people pick up Blackfire this time, one of the pages they will go to is to read that poem because of its beauty and because of its heartfelt messages.
Right.
About love. Yeah. So, Quincy.
Yes.
I have been reading about you probably for about 20 years. And one of the things, and the average person that lives in the United States has seen your work, whether it's in a poetry book or whether it's actually on the television or at the movies. So what I wanted to ask is, we have in this book what I consider one of the greatest poems because of your use of a word that I didn't even know before you wrote Duende. And then when you speak about it, we find the just brilliance and ability to take something and have people see the bigger picture with it. Can you tell us something about your writing of Duende and why it's so important to you?
Well, Duende is a concept that came from Garcia Lorca, the great Spanish poet, and he has this book called In Search of Duende. It's a great little book, and in it he talks about Duende, and he talks about what it is, and he talks about there is. It's not a muse. It comes from music, and it comes from magic, and it comes from black sounds. When he said black sounds, I said black sounds, and he was talking about the music and jazz because he had come to New York and he had heard all of this, and so I identified right away with Duende because I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and I grew up in a family where my dad was a great baseball player, and a lot of the players from Cuba and Mexico and Puerto Rico used to come by my house, and they would be talking about all of this stuff that I didn't know anything about, about music in Puerto Rico and in Cuba and the music and the blues and how the rhythms of Black people just impacted them. And some of these people were looked like white guys, they were white guys, I mean, they were, some of them were very dark and some was in the middle, so I could see myself in all of these people in my house, and my mother, I just listened to them talk, and it was fascinating to listen to them talk, and it taught me a lot. I never thought I was going to be a poet. I was a basketball player and a baseball player, and I was really good, as a basketball player, and that's what I thought I was going to be, a basketball player. I read books. I read all these books, but I didn't think I was going to be a writer until I wrecked my knee. And when I wrecked my knee, that was it. If you wreck your knee as a basketball player, you lose it, especially as a guard. I was a guard, point guard, shooting guard. And so I just started writing these poems. I don't know where it came from. It just, they just came out of nowhere. And I started to write these poems. And so that's where I started. And so when I read Garcia Lorca later on, I read In Search of Duende, his book, I said, that's me, that all that stuff is me. And that's what led to me writing this poem, Duende, for Garcia Lorca and Miles Davis, because I had discovered in Miles Davis, I never knew I was going to meet him, but I had discovered in his music something that just moved me, just really moved me. And so I used to go and hear him in St. Louis and sit in the back. My dad would take me, or my uncle would take me, and they would say, they call me Junior. Little Quincy, don't be drinking now. Don't be sneaking out here and drinking now. I ain't bringing you get drunk or nothing. You use none of them drugs or nothing. And so I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just listening to the music, And so when I had a chance to write this poem, I was thinking about, and I'm going to read it and for you. And I was thinking about who really influenced me so much to become an artist or a writer, poet. And I thought it was Garcia Lorca and Miles Davis, both of those two people. So I have this poem, and it's called Duende, for Garcia Lorca and Miles Davis. And I tried to end this poem, tried to get to what I think they were about, those two, and me, how they influenced me. It's in the bottomless power, magic of Duende, climbing stealthily from earth, wrapped inside secrets, mystery infused in black magic that enters bodies in the form of music, art, poetry imbuing language with sovereignty, in blood spooling back through violent centuries, voices echoing ancient Africa. Rise now, thread from skins of blessed sacred rituals. People emerge from drums as heartbeats in time, where memory is revived here now through metaphor. When old voices find their way vibrating into song, rhythms stitch forgotten sounds into language, beat out of them by whips on slave ships, by whips on slave ships. beat out of them by whips on slave ships, bring back wonder of feet pounding. Dance now, the Holy Ghost, lost in bloody homelands, souls underneath, rise up now through bodies now, spool back with talisman, hypnotic, pull ancient voodoo up, voodoo up in buckets filled with holy water. Evoke now memories drinking from whodunit secrets, awakened in poetry of Garcia Lorca, Andalusian dews, heard in Miles Davis's clues, vibrating anew in sketches of Spain, vibrating anew in sketches of Spain's Andante blues, vibrating anew in sketches of Spain.
Beautiful. Margaret and I both love it. I've read it, I've heard it so many times, and I still love it just as strongly because it just brings up so much. And I think because there's so many ways to look at that poem, and then your use of words, it's absolutely beautiful. I have to say something about the both of you. You were meant to be together. The way I see you both interconnect with your work and your support of each other is absolutely beautiful to see. And I just want to thank you. And Margaret, thank you for reading. Those few words were so special and powerful. Thank you for doing that. And before we leave, do either one of you want to say something?
I wish she had read the whole poem, see, but she's not used to reading poems. You know, I knew she was hard for her to
Okay,
do.
I'll try it again. Maybe I can read it better this time.
Okay.
Mourning the dead for my siblings. When Betty died, it was the first time I'd spoken to a person who was leaving this earth. Her voice garbled. She could barely articulate her words, but she understood perfectly what I was saying when I said, I love you. I didn't really know what to say to her as she lay dying. When Harry died, it was the first time I'd held the hand of someone who was leaving from this earth, his hand cold in the way stone is cold, yet it was the hand of a person, a human being, the hand of my brother, with whom I'd grown up, playing in the dirt underneath the house, suffered his teasing. I turned my back when he refused to fight, not for his job, not for his health, not for his life, couldn't stand up. His cold hand, a vise on my heart. Then Wash died, and I just couldn't stand up. That's it.
You're standing. That is a beautiful poem.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading. And thank you both for taking a part in the podcast for Black Fire this time. Powerful voices, and I'm very appreciative. And I know our audience will be too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.